evening, everyone. Good evening, cousins. You guys will be my cousins, won't you? Yeah. Means that if I make a mistake or if I get something wrong, you guys aren't going to laugh at me. You guys are going to laugh with me. My name is Walkem, for those of you who don't know, but I think that there might have been a few hints already. The name that I was given by my great-grandma Shama is Maha. Currently, I'm in my first year of studies at UVic, which is really fun. It involves a lot of reading, so it's a good thing I like reading. I was really surprised. It's such a nice place down here. Nobody ever asks me to do the rain dance anymore. Nobody ever calls me Pocahontas. I love it. If Native women had $1 for every time we've been called Pocahontas, we'd have enough money to buy our land back 10 times over. My home is in Walkem. It means the healing waters. It's also known as Nikumen Indian Reserve. It's the most beautiful place on earth to me. The water from Walkem, or Nikumen River, comes from the lake in which Shuknam, or shaman, used to train. It courses through the mountains and spills over these cliffs as a waterfall, and then merges with the Thompson River, which our reserve overlooks. It's the place where I grew up, even though I didn't live there all the time, even though I didn't go to school there. It's the place where I remember all of my summers. So I remember blackened feet from running around the reserve and catching grasshoppers and getting hurt with my cousins and having fun. It's also the place where I grew up with my yaya and my great-grandma, whether it was through gardening or through picking berries or through sitting on that floor for hours listening to my great-grandma tell me stories. She had a lot of stories to tell. She could really make a person laugh. Just last year, while I was there for maybe a 5-hour visit or so, you know how it goes, she told me about how, Autumn, I think I killed your grandpa. Yeah? Tell me more. He wasn't supposed to have sugar, but I kept baking him these pies and these cakes and these cookies. This is going to be my first Christmas without her, and it's already different, because one of the things she'd always ask me, Autumn, what do you want for Christmas? Do you want a boyfriend for Christmas? I'll get you a boyfriend for Christmas. Nobody loves me like that. Nobody else offers to get me a boyfriend for Christmas. The important thing about all of her stories, though, is that they made Nikumen more than home. They made it such a special place. To be able to look in every direction and say, hey, I know a story there. I know a story there. Because Walkem has been home since time immemorial, it means that every time I'm there, I walk in the literal footsteps of my ancestors. I walk these paths worn down by generations, and wherever I go, even when I'm not at Nikumen, I carry that with me. And that is the spirit that I carry with me. Another thing about summers growing up that was important was huckleberry picking. I think that a lot of my identity was formed behind that. There was challenges, waking up early in the morning, spending hours out on the mountains with all those flies. I'd sometimes cry about it. Those bees, they loved me. My aunties would say, oh, you're just so sweet, honey, they can't get enough of you, that's why they won't leave you alone. But it was also so beautiful, these endless blue skies and these bumpy mountain roads bonk, bonk against the windows. Every stream we'd pass by, filling up these jugs for water and having yayat sandwiches and just spending hours getting berry stains all over your fingers and your hands and your jeans and your shirts. It really taught me how to argue, too. You see, my uncles would always say, no, these are our huckleberries. Even if I picked them, they'd have to argue about, no, you can't have them, they're my berries. I lost that argument a lot, though. And the other argument that I had is one time my brother and my cousin came along huckleberry picking with us. And the rule is that we're supposed to kind of stick together, stick close to the road. And so I'm picking, minding my own business, when I realize that I don't know where my brother and my cousin are. So I walk back to the road, and I walk back to the truck, and I see them inside. And they're looking really, really frantic. So I try to open the door, but it's locked, and they won't let me in. Bear! Bear! They're screaming at me. So I had to argue my way into convincing them to unlock the door and let me in. As soon as they pulled me in and slammed the door shut, then we see this bear cub going across the road in front of us. So arguing is a good skill to have, especially when you're convincing your cousins to help you out. One of the things about all of these places is I imagine that they remember us, and that they remember me and my brothers and my cousins and my aunties and my yaya, because they watched us grow. They watched as our memories formed there for thousands of years, thousands and thousands of people. They're home. Intlikutln territory is so beautiful, and every single inch that I walk on has before been touched by one of my ancestors. It's history there. It's my own history. And the Intlikutln people are amazing. One of the things I found out through all my research is that we were long renowned for our battle skill and strategy. First by our neighboring nations, such as the Secwepemc, and then by the gold miners that came through. One of the other things we were renowned for was our basket making. Is anyone here familiar with basket making processes? One of the things about pine needle baskets is it involves an element of sewing, so it means that the basket maker knows how to stab things over and over and over. I think it's hilarious when I say, oh, well, one of the first names we were given was the Knife Indians, and people look at me and say, you don't look very intimidating, Autumn. You just haven't made me mad yet. My matrilineage spans from the mothers before me. Delilah Walkem, Lorraine Spence, Elizabeth Lytton, Mabel Lytton, Mary Moberly. These are 5 generations of women that I have stories about, that I came from. And I was so lucky to be raised by 3 of these generations. And even though they're the ones that raised me, it's all of the generations of women before me that wove the fibers of my being into who I am today. And in Intlikutln society, to be a woman meant to have power, literally and figuratively. The transition to womanhood was sacred for the fact that on her moontime, a woman wouldn't have as much control over her powers, and so she was isolated from the rest of her community in order to protect the men. Because one of the things is that while men were seen as our physical protectors, women are the spiritual guardians of our men. And there's a story of this girl who was on her first moontime, and she had turned transformers into stone with simply her song and her drum. Transformers are like gods. They change the mountainsides, they change the country. And this completely average Intlikutln girl transformed them to stone without even trying. I'm told that I was born alone with my mom out in Ontario, which is quite far away from home. But I don't believe that. I believe that I was sent here by a community of ancestors who celebrated me and who loved me. And while here on this earth and with these people, I imagine a new community that I am creating every day, which I'm so glad that you guys are now a part of. And the next generations after me formulate the next community, who too I'm responsible to and whom I'm inspired by. I hope I can become part of your guys' community too. And so that brings me back to what the blood remembers, is that we belong to our ancestors, to our grandchildren, and to anyone whom we make family. We are worthy. We are all connected and related. And if you guys need the reminder, you are beautiful. You are resilient. You are special, and I am proud of you. You have communities that care about you, and I care about you. One of the things that inspires me is during the time of the Fraser Canyon Gold Rush, the way that the disease swept through completely decimated the populations of Intlikutln people. 9 out of 10 people were gone. And so this created a generation of Intlikutln youth who, during their coming-of-age ceremonies, didn't have any elders to turn to. They didn't have any adults to turn to. So that they, on their own, went back to these sacred places where they knew pictographs were, and that's where they went on their own vision quests. They returned to where our ancestors were waiting for them. And I imagine that that relates so much to us now, about how we do still walk in the footsteps of our ancestors, and we still have places that their spirit continues on. And we have that opportunity every single day to seek that out. Thank you so much for listening to me. Have a good night. Hala.